Beskin writes, does anyone make a December album as a kind of overview, but also full-blown layouts about specific Christmassy events to go in a separate album? Or am I just nutso? Glitter Girl, can you help Beskin scrap her celebrations this Christmas?
Of course I can. I wanted to start by sharing a few different options for how you could include 12 by 12 pages even if you are creating a smaller December album. This is my 2010 December album, my Christmas journal, and in 2010 I started with an 8.5 by 11 album with a variety of page protectors, but the largest was the 8.5 by 11 size. But a few weeks in I realized that all of the pages I wanted to create were not going to fit, and so I took everything out of the 8.5 by 11 and put it in a full size 12 by 12. It wasn't that the page size was too small, it was the binder I was using was too shallow to include all the pages. So I just popped the whole thing into 12 by 12 and then suddenly realized that I had the freedom to then add normal 12 by 12 pages to that album. And the majority of my page protectors were absolutely fine because the 3 rings in an 8.5 by 11 are the same as the 3 rings in a 12 by 12. So I didn't need to punch holes in anything except what would already not have holes for the 8.5 by 11, like adding a gift bag in. So I just punched holes in that. But everything else was just really easy to transfer over to the larger size album. That gave me the freedom to include as many pages as I wanted. And then once I got past my regular Christmas documentation on all the different sizes, I also had some photos that I wanted to create normal 12 by 12 pages with. So I just went ahead and included them at the back of the album, and I have room to add a few more of those as I decide to scrapbook that particular Christmas. And that's just one way that you could take and combine any sort of December documentation like a December daily or a Christmas journal and include your normal 12 by 12 pages with it. But of course you don't have to do it that way. You can also keep your December album in a small format but then create 12 by 12 pages in a separate album that would be your normal, I say normal, chronological or whatever other family album you would keep things in for December of that year. So, for example, my album the year before is an 8 by 8. And everything throughout the whole book was one 8 by 8 large photo and one 8 by 8 page with the journaling. So that idea continues through the whole book. If you haven't done a format like this where you end up with full-size photos, I do recommend it. It's really liberating to have the whole page, even though it's a smaller page, the whole page to deal with your embellishment and your journaling, and then just let the photo shine on its own. Plus, it keeps down on your printing costs because you can run all these photos at the end and have them printed in one big bulk batch and get a discount that way. Just an idea, but I really liked this album. But it did mean that I put everything for that particular Christmas in this book and then found I wasn't making 12 by 12 pages. Well, I also found when I ran my 8 by 8 photos all in one big batch at the end, I did come up with a few that didn't fit in this album or just seemed a bit to duplicate what was already here. So perhaps I had this picture of everyone at the table, but then I had a lot of close-ups of the different people at the table and different combinations of those people. So I took out a few of those, and I'm going to use one of those today on a 12 by 12 page. And then instead of going with my Christmas journal pages, it will go in my chronological album for that year. So in this case, it will go in my 2009 album with all the other events from 2009. So I have that 8 by 8 print, and it looks like this. So I'm a little kind of split focus today, not only on scrapbooking Christmas in 2 different formats, but also on using larger square prints on a 12 by 12 page. 12 by 12 pages are a great excuse to use the patterns that are a little bit more challenging in a smaller format album. A pattern paper like this one called Make a Gift from October Afternoon Make It Merry looks great when it's chopped into smaller words or if it's cut into separate blocks, but it is really impressive as a full 12 by 12 sheet where you're just going to add embellishment and photos to one section and let a lot of this pattern just breathe on the page. So definitely enjoy mixing up the page sizes so that that you can include some of the full 12 by 12s that you really like as well. But today I'm going to focus on some border prints. So I've taken 2 border prints that come in a 12 by 12. This one from Echo Park's This and That Christmas line, and this one from October Afternoon Make It Merry. This one is mostly horizontal patterns, although there are a few that would work on the vertical as well. And this one has quite a few that work on the vertical, so that's a good balance because I want a few borders to go in each direction. And I'm going to use, since I'm using quite busy borders, I'm going to use quite a plain background. And I'm not sure, this may just show up as very dark on your screen. It's actually a really rich dark wood grain, and it's from an autumn collection by Lily B Studio. So all the supplies are linked up over at 2Ps underneath the project, so you can have a look at everything there. But if you are just seeing this as a really dark brown or a black sheet of paper, it is patterned. It's a really rich wood grain. So I'm going to start by adding a little bit of shimmer and pattern to this wood grain to make it a little bit more Christmassy. And I'm going to use some gold lame spray. That's the Heidi Swapp Color Shine. And this star mask from Studio Calico. And then I'll just take some scraps of paper to cover up the rest of the page, grabbing papers that are in the recycling bin and don't really matter. And then I'll spray my stars. And of course, I've not been careful enough and I've missed a corner and ended up with gold down here, but I'll try and work that into the design. Okay, so now I have these stars in the background. They don't need to be perfect at all. I just wanted to add something so that there would be a little something a bit more Christmassy than just the wood grain. And a lot of this is going to get covered up anyway, but I'm just going to set this aside to dry while I choose my border strips from these 2 designs and cut them to fit. Now, the trick with mixing these collections is Echo Park tends to be a white-based paper while October Afternoon tends to be cream. But This and That Christmas is a little bit more cream. You can tell the difference at the bottom where the branding strip is white, but the pattern is cream. So that's why I've chosen these 2, and I also thought this blue was quite a good match, the aqua blue in the pattern, although I'm not quite sure that I'll use that piece, so it doesn't really matter, but it's what caught my eye to make them go together. So they have quite similar tones, and the styles are different in illustration, but they're both quite nostalgic. This idea of using wood paneling and doilies they're certainly not mod futuristic type designs, very much classic designs, and these very vintage. So I'm just going to choose a few. I'm working with the large square photo. I want to create a corner piece that will go around. So I want a couple of horizontal borders and a couple of vertical borders so that I can frame that photo in the corner of the page. I've chosen 3 to go on the vertical and 3 to go on the horizontal, and they're evenly mixed between the Echo Park and the October Afternoon pattern papers, and together I think they work quite well, and you don't necessarily spot one collection versus the other. And this banner piece, this is the easy way to use this one, and you can just leave it as a border strip and it works really well just as a simple cut the strip as a straight line and it'll work fine. I'm going to dress it up a little bit by cutting the individual banners. So the easiest way to do that for me anyway is to cut all of the pieces at the same angle in a row. So I come down the line and print and cut all of the left sides of the flag, and then I come back and cut the other side, and then I'll do the strips in between each piece. I do find if I cut the centers out first rather than cut the lines down the side, it just keeps it that little bit more stable while you cut these center pieces, so they end up a little bit more even than if each piece was already an individual flag. Once you've cut this banner apart, it also will have a really easy natural curve if you want to use it in a corner where you can round the little flags to go in any sort of a curved design rather than just a straight line. But what I want to do is create this corner piece, but it does mean that I need to trim these pieces down a little bit, otherwise they have to go straight, and I want them to be on a little bit of an angle. Now with some of the patterns that's no problem, because this one, it doesn't matter where I trim this pattern down because it's just a repeating design and I'm not going to lose anything. But with this countdown and the Merry Christmas, I need to be a little bit more careful, because if I cut off just from the top or the bottom, I might lose something I want, or I might want it to be legible. So I'm going to do two different things with this. With the countdown, the picture I have is from Christmas Day itself, so I want 25 to be part of the design because I want to circle the 25 and draw more attention to it. So I'm just going to cut from the other end. I'm sure that everyone can understand that it's a countdown even if I cut off the first couple numbers. So I'm just going to bring it down to the 3, and that will give me a bit more room on the page. And then with the Merry Christmas, I'm actually just going to cover up the middle of the phrase, because I think you'll be able to read it and it's going to be repeated elsewhere on the page. And so I'm just going to try folding over and covering one letter. I can even do a little bit less than that. Yeah, so I'm just going to take out just part of one letter and overlap it that tiny little bit. And then when I have another page element that I add on top, I'm just going to be making sure that I cover up that part of the design so that magically it will look as though I spelt Merry Christmas in 11.5 inches instead of 12. So I'm going to go ahead and get these 3 pieces this way, and then my 3 horizontal pieces attached to the background as well. A corner space built so that I can start adding in my photo. And what I haven't planned out as well as possible was those stars that I sprayed at the very beginning are definitely going to be entirely covered by the picture. And with a 4x6 photo, something smaller, they still would have been on show, but in this case they're definitely going to be hidden. So I'm going to add a little bit more misting with some stars directly in this top corner and see if that will give me a bit better result. So I'm just going to repeat that same process, and this time I'll place the mask so that the stars go right off the edge of the page. With the washi tape, there's a couple reasons why I use the washi tape with a mask like this. Part of it is to keep the mask as flush to the page as possible, because then you'll get the crispest design from the stencil. But the other part is because if I'm using a mask like this often, I'm not going to stop and clean it every single time, and I need to make sure I always use it in the same direction, because then if I were to put it the other way around, even if the mist had dried, when I spray more mist on it, it may mean that the mist kind of gets underneath, and you can kind of reactivate the mist that's dried on the other side. So unless you really want to experiment with that look, if you want to make sure that you're only getting mist on one side, if you keep the tape on the stencil when you're not using it, then when you put it back on the page, you know that's always the side that you've used. So just a preference on whether you want to keep it really tidy or really experimental, or somewhere in between. And that, I think, will work a lot better. I know that this time I didn't block off the off cast, but I think that's all right. I decided I would leave it because I just want a little bit of shimmer rather than a really defined pattern. Here's the page with my photo in place, and this automatically can help me figure out where the embellishment's going to go. I know that I need something in this space here because I want to cover up that place where I've shortened the phrase, and I'm thinking that I want something here where I have the line from the mask and the spray, so it changes from the stars to just the plain mist, and I have the same thing here on this side. So if I cover these two spots just where the harshness of the line is with some embellishment, then the effect will be that it changes from the stars to this just little mist, and it will almost be as if the stars in the mask have gotten so tiny that you can't tell they're stars anymore. It's only that line that gives it away. So I'm going to start looking for elements that I could add to those three places, and I want a larger element here and two smaller things here. With the October Afternoon holiday collection called Make It Merry, there are all sorts of different die cut packs to choose from. So there's one that looks like a library card. It's very white in this case next to these patterns, I think, so perhaps not that one. This one looks a little small. There's also this cassette tape. Maybe this one with a little something else behind it. And then this pack also includes different little captions. And the ones that have text, if you turn them over, they're plain on the other side. So if you just want to match the color but wish the wording said something a little bit different, then instead of do not open before December 25th, you've got just a nice red framed white box on the other side. So a little bit more useful if you just want to mix up the collection and perhaps the colors are a great match but the wording's not perfect for you. You've got both those options. There's also, so that one is called the Doodads, and then there's also Tidbits. This is all small embellishments. And there tend to be lots of photo tabs and little date boxes and some circles. Making a start with this embellishment, and I did want to add something slightly bigger than this smaller piece. So I just went to some scrap papers and cut something that would go with these papers, just something really subtle cut into a square that's slightly bigger. That's just enough to give it a bit more weight on the page because I want to draw your attention here once I have the journaling and the embellishment here, because I'm not going to use a larger title on the page, I don't think. Then these two smaller elements, I wanted to repeat different things but have them each be unique. So each of them has a photo tab, each has a little bit of the pink that I want to pick up in. There's just three little elements of pink on the page, this flag down here and these two pieces. This photo tab had the green and white check pattern, so I pulled out one of the banner stickers that had that same pattern. So each has a little red, a little pink, and a little green plaid, and both have a photo tab. But I do want to keep embellishing those and have them feel a little bit more dressy and more finished. So pulling in some other supplies, this is lovely new addition to the shop, which is glitter tape, and you just cut it to size and it's already adhesive, and you can rub the top of the tape all you want and the glitter doesn't come off and end up everywhere, so it's really stuck fast. The back just peels off and then you stick it to the page. So lots of sparkle, just like you'd applied loose glitter, except it's not really loose on the page. It's not going to make a big mess and really easy to add to the design. So I was just seeing if I want this on the top. I actually think what I would prefer is to have it peek out as if it were a strip from behind there. So just add a little bit to each side to get that effect, and only you and I will know that that isn't a longer piece of the tape going all the way across there. Then a little bit on this side. And I think on this side just one here is enough. And then I'll save that little piece for maybe something down here where I want to emphasize that number 25. Then I also wanted to bring in the craft heart stickers from Studio Calico. So I think I'll just try dotting a few of these around in a little arrangement in each area of the embellishment, and use the larger heart-shaped stickers in the larger grouping and the smaller one in the smaller grouping, because you get all the different sizes on that same sheet. So I think at this point I'll go ahead and get my writing down on the journaling card, and that way I know where I can place other things around there and not cover up or ruin my space for the writing. My writing needed a little bit more room than what was on that original journaling card, so I just added another sticker to continue the writing just a little bit. And then it means that I've kind of just partially covered up these bells. So I want to add something to this corner so that that's not quite so awkward. So I'm going to do that with a little Christmas tree sticker from the October Afternoon sticker sheet. And because there's quite a few layers there already, I'm just going to put this on pop dots so that it kind of hovers above all those other elements. And then I can add any finishing touches to this grouping of embellishment to make it match the others. So I don't have any left of the green check that I use. Oh, wait, I take that back. I do. I have the other half of this sticker sheet, because this was a banner that's meant to be folded in half around the stick like this. So I just took half of it to use there, and then I can use half down here. So I can just place that behind there and pop dot just one corner. And I can add a little bit of the green glitter tape to match the others as well. And both these times I did it with a straight edge on the end there. So I'll just trim that up to match. And add that little bit of sparkle. Then other elements that I included, some pink, but I'm going to use the pink down here, I think, and those craft heart stickers. So one large one, and I think I can add a couple smaller craft hearts as well. I really kind of want to bring this down here, but it's kind of lost if I make a triangle here. So perhaps I'll wait until I finish this little bit down here in the bottom corner, and there may be a better spot. So last little finishing touch was that I wanted to add some emphasis to the 25. Okay, I looked at a few different options and found something a little different that worked, and I just wanted it to be a bit more subtle. When I started circling with things, it just seemed a bit too forced and obvious since there's already a lot of other things going on the page. So I just took a tiny little bit of the green glitter tape and popped it behind the side of the number 25 and added 3 little pink enamel dots from My Mind's Eye. They just adhere right on top, and that's just enough to encircle the 25, draw that little triangle around it, and it just makes it obvious that it is Christmas Day, but it doesn't shout that it's Christmas Day. It doesn't shout 25 or anything like that. And then because that had then brought in some circular elements, I chose 3 of the brads from the set of brads with the October Afternoon collection, and just added 1 to each grouping of embellishment. And that's it. That's everything done for this page. I wish you lots of luck with your December documentation in whatever style you do it, be it a 12 by 12 or a smaller album. Your challenge this week is to create a full-size holiday celebration layout and share it with us in the gallery. I can't wait to see your pages. Thanks for watching.
Join us next week for the continuing adventures of Glitter Girl and the ongoing mystery of the scrapbooker behind the mask at 2psinabucket.com.